Hello and welcome. We are so excited to welcome you to Living Cities Earth experience. Please enjoy the next few minutes, and we hope that this video and the ideas from our speakers will change your life to the better. Listen carefully. What particularly talks to you? What might have a chance to change your life and lives of people around you? Also, life of your place and our planet. We believe that you, the leaders of positive change, are those who define the future. So let's work together. And thank you for coming. Ideas in our hearts and in our minds, and I hope share with others. So thank you to everyone who watched us in YouTube and will be watching in recording. And now we pass on to the next. It's called Impulse presentation, and our colleague from our SDG Plus Club, Natalia Startseva, will be presenting on a topic of sustainable human development. So Natalia, welcome. SDG Plus Club, I'll just mention, is one of the core organizers and partners of the Earth Day Summit, and they have done a tremendous work working with United Nations Habitat and other experts. And Natalia also suggested to share her research and perspectives on how to basically organize sustainable human development in corporate and city environment. So Natalia, on to you.
Thank you very much, Lev. Can you hear me well? Can you see my slides as well?
Are those yours, Human Well? They're beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much. So yes, I was really happy to be invited here, and because basically I've been working on this idea since many years, I would say. So it's been quite some time when I, back then an agile coach in IT and in engineering, realized that very often many of the efforts that I'm involved in, they are not really, let's say, working so well as I would imagine it because of the humans, let's say. So not because of the process, not because of the tool, not because of the budget, let's say, but really because of the humans. So I was really happy to join the SDG Club last year and to actually realize that whatever ideas I had and whatever feelings and intuition I had about sustainable human development, it is there. And especially the human well as of itself, on the one hand, is basically uniting four major pieces: person, people, places, and planet. And basically, I really feel towards the goal and towards the mission and vision of the human well as a concept to actually let people manifest their potential, not only creative potential, different potential, and live healthy, happy lives in harmony. And basically, when this whole thing started, I decided that I would also join. And first of all, why me, I would say, because, well, I have been leading agile transformation and in general transformation in many big organizations, several big organizations. And what I mentioned before, there was like a tipping point when I realized that no matter how professionally I do it, there's always like, let's say, a piece which needs extra attention, and this is humans. So I joined University of Innsbruck 1.5 years ago as a PhD candidate in parallel to my full-time job to discover and to find the way to sustainably develop, actually, well, first of all, my teams, but also my employees, but also my clients in a sense. And well, since then, I discovered so many different and let's say unexpected things that I really thought I would just share it with you today. So I will just start, and if you have questions or if something is not clear, please just raise a hand and let me know, just ask a question. And basically what I would like to talk about today is the sustainable human development. So of course, in the scientific literature, it's not like a very common definition, let's say. So the whole definition of development of skills or talent or even human resources, it is still not fixed, unfortunately, in scientific literature. I was really shocked when I learned that actually even a talent or talent management as a term of itself, it is still considered to be in development. So really surprising how if we think about how often and how many times we talk about talent as a word. So basically, as a sustainable human development, at least as a, let's say, working definition, it basically can be understood as a means to a path forward in certain times, in a way, which actually corresponds to whatever times we have right now. It became, and it will be even more and more uncertain. And human development has to be seen as a holistic growth. So this is also corresponding to spiral dynamics, to different governance theories, development theories of teams. Also, when we just spoke about storming, norming, and performing, it also is about developing several humans in a part of the team. And of course, also developing a human from early age to adulthood, but also to retirement, and what has to be and what could be developed even like after a person leaves, let's say, a corporate job, or is not working anymore in an official way of how we understand the work. And basically, there are many different concepts that I discovered so far during my research time as a PhD candidate. So one of the most interesting, I would say, areas that I discovered was in the Human Development Report, actually, of the UN. And there are like there's like one circle, but two paths that we need to discover, and several facets where, let's say, at least at the moment, we already give the value. And this is, as I said, also corresponds with also the vision of SDG Club, where I'm at, Sustainable Development Goals Plus, because it also includes the human, and it includes also our personal give and take as humans in that sense. So according to UN and according to the framework that I'm sharing with you right now, already in 2015, we were speaking about at least partly human development as a development of the choices that the human can make, as a development of, let's say, the future for the human. So, for example, if we speak about a person working in one organization, a sustainable human development will talk about this human beyond that organization. And we will talk later about it. This is still not the case of how, for example, the companies treat their employees. They never think about developing the employee to be able to work outside of the company, or even for a competitor, for example. So, of course, well, richness of human lives as well is an important keyword here, because, well, we still rather focus on even at corporates, we focus more about KPIs, about ROI, and not really about human capital. We are not even, I mean, people are still very often considered being a cost center and not a profit center. And even if we talk about work, if we talk about corporate, there is like, again, the definition of work on the one hand, but also there are like jobs, but also there are like, there's like work which is not paid still right now, or not paid well enough, let's say creative work or care work, even voluntary work, it's also work. But again, it's also like not really treated in the similar way. And there are not so many also, let's say, development or sustainable development path in those roles. And even as I realized, there are even like some kind of jobs or some work which actually damages the development. So binds the human, for example, to an organization, or restricts the capability of development. And for that, for example, again, from the studies and from the research, there is even Human Development Index that has been developed, again, some years ago, but not so common, not so easy to find, let's say, unless you really specifically look for that. And what was really shocking, again, surprising not, but actually shocking, that the Human Development Index is declining for the first time since the time it has been tracked. And well, it started actually even before the pandemic. So this is something where I would say we really need to focus on more, both scientists, both let's say companies, organizations, and even we for ourselves, because, well, I mean, we are all a part of the bigger ones. And of course, let's say we can also talk about the cities as a composition of several people of several companies of several cities. And basically, this Human Development Index could be, of course, an indication, though it doesn't measure a lot, let's say. So it measures expectancy at birth. It measures the years of schooling and expected years of schooling, so like education, let's say, and it also measures national income per capita. So I think from the research perspective, this is something where I'm not really tackling that in my dissertation, but also like the way how we measure it, I would have a look at that and include a more broad and maybe more qualitative ways of measuring the index itself. And then one of the last points regarding the human development through work, because of course, from my experience in the corporates, I'm looking at the people more as a part of the organization, but also, well, yes, beyond the organization. Now that I learned that sustainable talent development can mean that people outside of work will be able to find a new job and so on. So there are like different agendas. There's different ways how to develop humans, let's say, through whatever they do every day, and finding opportunities, looking for opportunities, being proactive, having also a sustainable path within the organization, let's say, because like now I'm narrowing down basically the next slides that I will show to you. So there are different ways, as I said, to enhance this sustainability in human development, and work is, of course, still as like more than half of the population in the world is working or it has a certain type of job. This would be probably the easiest way and like, let's say, low-hanging fruit where we can start developing a path and we can start developing approaches for sustainable human development. But of course, now we're coming to reality check, and this is where my dissertation comes in. And first of all, what I decided to look into during my research is what is going on in the organization. So what is happening exactly, and then also how are the humans reacting in the organization? How do they develop themselves? And surprisingly, well, I will speak about how companies develop humans. And there were many findings during 1.5 years that I figured out. And I will walk you through a bit more than that, just the findings. I will also explain how the scientists right now, let's say organizations like psychologists and strategic talent management scientists, they look actually at the talent in general. And they look at employees and talent sustainability. And afterwards, I will show you what I found also when I spoke with the talent itself, let's say. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, unfortunately, and very surprising, talent as a definition is still considered immature, despite a lot of years of research. So there are multiple talent frameworks. So it's not like we actually, as scientists, aligned already on one. There's no, as I said, clear agreement. There are different perspectives on the talent. So it can be subject, object, inclusive, exclusive. So depending on the way how you look and what, let's say, ontology and epistemology you use to look at the talent, the results and then, let's say, the policies that you as an organization is implementing can be totally different. And of course, as the talent research is not mature yet, it's not so easy to find a sustainable framework right now and to implement sustainability in that area. But yeah, of course, I hope that the next years will bring some clarity on that. And what I mentioned before, the talent philosophies, this is something that was like, for me personally, as a coach or as a manager working in a corporate, was exactly that philosophy of the talent. So when we talk about talent, and here I'm referring to one of the latest works of Nikki Dries from actually last year, there are like 4 different ways to consider what is a talent and how to develop a talent. And already depending on what perspective organization chooses, it will be really, let's say, a big difference on the way how the organization also treats people, humans, talents within itself. So, for example, we hear right now a lot about diversity and inclusion, of course, but if organization decides already from the setup that there is a certain group of people or a group of jobs or positions which are considered to be the successors for the top management, let's say, then we cannot already talk about inclusiveness in that organizations, because it means that already talent is considered to be an exclusive set of 10% of the lucky few. Sometimes in the scientific literature, it is also referred to as stars. And this is one example of this quadrant that is already contradictory. And when I've been talking about this contradiction within my organization, like one of the ones I used to work before, it became clear to me that talent managers are not really aware of the scientific part of the talent discussion. So for them, it was also a very eye-opening discussion in that sense. So this is why, for example, when we talk about the types of organizations, so when we say that this agility or new ways of work is becoming, let's say, supportive of the way how we treat people in our organization, the way how we treat talent, actually, we see that the frameworks and that the strategies which are behind that agility, they are already supporting us into transition upon the spiral dynamics, right? So transition from the red organization to the teal organization. And this is why it is important, at least for me, in my work, to put agility and put the new ways of work under magnifying glass, and to see how the frameworks that I use are helping me to create sustainability in my talent, to create sustainability in the teams. And I mean, of course, in general, if organizations are paying more attention to sustainability of their talents, then we support the cities in that sense as well. And again, if we talk about, for example, employees then, or talents in the organizations that employ this type of new work methods, agility, Scrum, Kanban, Six Sigma, whatever you call it, they are more proactive. And when they are more proactive, they are more equipped to manage their career. And this is why, again, another scientific term, employee involvement and participation. So agility is promoting that. Agility is highlighting actually involvement of employees, so that talents in the organization also feel empowered. They feel that they can contribute, but not only to the organization, but also to the development of themselves, also beyond their roles, also beyond their teams, maybe, and as I said, maybe even beyond their organizations. So also it can be called an employee voice, let's say. And right now there are more and more scientific studies where this frameworks and the way how people develop within their frameworks, the way how they are empowered, it allows them to develop their voice, and it allows them to increase their employability. So as you can see, basically, even the process and a certain talent philosophy, but also proactivity. So it's like a connection between of itself. It supports in sustainable talent development as well. So it's not only organizations, it's not only talents, but it's also, let's say, the way how you organize the work and the process and the tool behind it. It's also very important to reach the goal in that sense. And basically, if we speak about this employee involvement and participation, there is a direct connection. And this is what one of the studies that I've been reading through and I've been checking out, I found. And basically, employability is exactly another scientific term. So this is why before I mentioned that talent is not really mature. So there are many definitions and many notions that you will hopefully from now on be aware of. So employee voice, employability, sustainable talent development. So all of them are very often, unfortunately, used as either synonyms or as something similar. So again, as you see at the bottom, so even employability has an assumption that employee has own role and has to be proactive into developing himself. So this is becoming like at least more round in the scientific work. And the main question is now, so what about the sustainability for talents? So how can it be lived, and how can organization build this type of, let's say, resilient career system? Because not only globally, but also within organizations, a lot of roles are becoming not required. Like if we talk about let's say workers in the conveyor belts, or if we talk about different people that are not being required because their jobs have been automated. So this is something where this resilience has to be worked on, not only by the person themselves, but also from the organization. And this is basically, as I said, really, really great and interesting that this research is happening right now, because this will support us, and this will support hopefully different talents and humans into developing themselves, as I said, beyond the organizations. But again, as we have seen before, so on the one hand, humans are being developed, talents are being developed by the companies, and of course by the governments, in the schools and universities and so on. But on the other hand, there is also this concept, well, let's say beyond the organization, but also beyond, let's say, the retirement rate. And this is where humans should be proactive. And this is where we said that there are like certain frameworks that help humans to be proactive, and well, how humans develop themselves. So I will again show a bit of theory, a bit of research, and the framework that we're using within our SDG Plus Club, the Individual Sustainable Development Plan in Action. And well, I mean, most of you probably know this dimensions of human development as it's used, for example, by career coaches or life coaches, or even people just for themselves. So there are different frameworks, and one of them is this Wheel of Life, which I'm picturing now on the slide. And basically, whatever those frameworks are good at, and here again, similar as in the organizations where they use Agile, Scrum, or whatever framework, here we also have some tool that can help us to construct certain paths, that help us to construct a certain plan of development that we can use based on the current situation, career situation, life situation. And of course, coaching also as a concept, coaches as people could be enablers, but again, this can be done by the person themselves. So again, similar to organizations, in the companies, people can develop themselves as well, but also there can be a mentor, there can be the boss, there can be HR department. So somehow it is quite similar in different, let's say, phases of life. And well, basically, when I did different interviews during my dissertation, I was not very, let's say, not really happy, I would say, but I was confused. I was very confused because very often I heard from the colleagues or from the people on the streets that I would talk to, that when I would ask them, how did you develop your path? How did you know what to do, how to develop, where to end up, let's say, your life? Many people would say that I was just lucky. I had a mentor, that they didn't really have a plan. And very often they say that they don't even want to have a plan. And this is something where, which, let's say, contradicts, on the one hand, this requirement of being proactive. And this is where I think my research might be really of a value, where I will understand how organizations can develop people, but also how people can be motivated to develop themselves beyond. And this is why, as I mentioned before, this development.
Sorry, just to mention, I'm very sorry. Just to mention that we have our next session starting shortly, so maybe just a couple of final.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lev. Well, as I started a bit later, sorry, I planned actually half an hour. I will just squeeze the rest a bit more. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, so I will try to finish now in 1 minute. Well, as I said, there is like this individual development plan that we leave in SDG Plus Club, and it's based on the give and the take. So proactively defining what we as humans can take from the environment, can take from our organization, can take from our government, societies, and cities, but also what we would like to give, apply to all aspects of life, both physical, both corporate, and so on. So this is something where I think in the future, and also during the in the part of my dissertation, this is what I will focus at while looking at the human development and sustainability. And well, yeah, that's the last slide basically. So on the one hand, I will try personally to map corporate talent development effort and employee participation and proactivity to create this environment where humans will develop beyond, and to expand the people agency and freedoms to help navigate and flourish in uncertain times, to as well support the development of organizations, cities, and the planet, hopefully, of itself. And well, basically the takeaways that I would like to give you today, that well, the corporate adoption of talent philosophy is really to define this philosophy, if it's inclusive, exclusive, and then based on that develop the talent sustainably. Also that there are tools, new ways of work, and frameworks that actually may support and will support your efforts. And well, as I said, employee voice and proactivity also support sustainability. So we just need to find the way how, and to motivate and inspire the others. And of course, again, digital tools and services are there to support human development beyond the current role and beyond the current place. So references, in case you would be interested, I think the slides will be uploaded afterwards. And I'm really happy to be there today. Thank you very much. I hope I could inspire a bit of thinking into sustainable human development. And I hope in the next years, I will be able to share even more of my research.
Natalia, it's amazing. First of all, thank you very much for your contribution. But I also want to mention that I love hearing all the questions which you pose, because about 25 years ago, I was working in talent development in a global sort of multinational company, and all the answers were very clear. And I'm so happy that you provide this fresh perspective, that there are still a lot of open questions. That's really inspiring, because I think it's better to have questions than answers, because then we learn and we develop. So it's really special to have you with us today. And I'm sure that Alexander, who is a big sort of expert and a big name in learning and development, will also applaud to what you have shared with us. And just a final word, we spoke today a lot about talents and how a living city is based on everybody contributing in his area of talents and, key sort of competences, etc. So it's really a big part of a living city experience to have people living their talents to the full. Alexander, maybe if you provide one final comment, and then we'll move on to our next session.
I love the work. I think it's very important work that you're doing, Natalia. And so thank you very much for bringing this forward. It really comes to the heart of what it means to be human, what it means to be human in structured environments. How do we take decisions in those structured environments? And I love the framing around, we talked a little bit about in the last session about knowers and not knowers. So the idea of coming to knowing, this is something that Gail Taylor talks about a lot, and a good friend of Marilyn's. And the idea that if you are a knower, and this is something you get through all doctoral studies and so on, you're supposed to be a knower. But the point is always coming to knowing, always being in that frame of humility, because especially like Marilyn and others talk about, we living in a VUCA world where the change patterns are volatile, ambiguous, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I got ambiguous first. That how do we navigate in that, right? And so I think the idea of having plans, but not being stuck to them, being able to co-create the dimensions of living together, of community, but not doing it with an algorithm or formula, really doing it with heart always intact. I know that this comes from the domain of war, but von Clausewitz says that planning is essential, but at the moment of engagement, it is important to discard all plans. So this is the framing. I think it's good to have both that dancing with. It's kind of like planned spontaneity. And I just wanted to share that because I think it's a both and. We have to work with our knowledge systems. And when we're curating, gardening, our living systems, our cities, when we're gardening those living spaces, we can't do it in an engineering frame. We have to do it in a lived, heart-based frame. And I know that we're going to be listening in just a moment to Sandy Hinden, who will be talking a bit about exactly these frames from the perspective of wiseocracy. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Pass it back to you, Lev.
Thank you very much. And as we start our new sort of set of exchanges, our new panel discussion. Wow, you have made it. You just watched amazing insights from experts of Living Cities Earth ecosystem. We welcome you to the Living Cities Earth experience and hope that we are going for a long ride as we take care of ourselves, our communities, our cities, and our planet. Thank you and welcome.